back to the podcast, everybody. Episode 3. Everybody feeling all right?
Feeling good.
Feeling
Really
good.
could use some coffee though, Scott. Thanks for that cold brew. Appreciate it.
I want to protect your child,
Yes.
and so
Well, we could always do decaf.
no, we could have.
If you
Shoulda,
guys-
woulda, coulda.
If you guys are wondering what that wonderful feminine voice is, it's not Jesse. We have
Oh.
a guest with us today, Jen Carlman.
Usually
Hello,
Jesse.
everyone. Right.
Yeah, it's,
I'm even taller than Jesse.
yeah.
Oh,
A little
hope
bit.
He's not listening.
Oh, he will.
He
And
totally-
should.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome back, everybody. We've got Scott, myself, and then Jen Carlman, a local anchor, San Diego Fox affiliate.
Yep.
Welcome here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So today we're talking about social media.
It's an exciting thing.
Yeah, I think it's just a part of everybody's life nowadays. It's just, you just kind of can't get away from it.
Did you guys watch 60 Minutes this week?
No.
Oh, you've
We're-
got to watch it. The whole first segment was on social media, this whole idea of how these companies are, this is not just a like fad to try to be connected. It is a, I don't want to say brainwashing, but it is specifically designed to get us addicted to our devices.
Dopamine.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And
Yeah.
releasing an actual, there's a brain change that happens, that you are looking at your phone all the time and you're feeding off of how many likes you get and how many shares you have and who's commenting, and there's all these algorithms. There's whole little industries, like guys in a garage like we are sitting here, that are specifically neuroscientists that are working on how to program code so you become more addicted to whatever your device is. It's fascinating.
It's crazy.
That is wild.
Yeah.
And I believe it because probably 15 minutes before I go to sleep and when I wake up, I have my phone in my hand. I wish I didn't, but I do.
So tell everybody how close you hold it to your eyeball.
Okay, so I mean, we're starting off on a big tangent, so stay with us. I am very blind.
Like really blind.
I went to my new eye doctor and told him my prescription, and the lady on the phone laughed.
You're seriously that blind?
She laughed.
She
So-
said, Jeffrey,
"Yeah,
are you 93 years old?
yeah,
Jeffrey?
seriously." So
I was in Guatemala with this guy, and I'm sitting in my bunk, laying in my bunk, not sitting, and I look over at Jeff in his bunk, and he's literally has it up to his eyeball, like this close. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
the phone has to touch my nose for me to see it, and that's not an exaggeration.
That's a good thing you have a big nose, so at least you have a few inches.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
That's right.
Yeah,
Touche.
Just kidding.
yeah.
Or not.
Only people on Facebook Live know that I have a big nose. Is that even a thing? Now I'm gonna have to go home. I'm gonna be looking in the mirror.
Right. No, your
Do
nose
I?
is just fine.
Do I?
God
Okay.
bless your nose, Jeff.
All right. I'm gonna put a disclaimer on this to fast forward to 3 minutes and 45 seconds into the podcast.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna get into the meat.
Boom.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's start this thing.
No, this has been fun though. All right, so just a quick reminder what this podcast is about. We are Christian people who understand that not everybody in the world is Christian or has even been exposed to the teachings of Christ or what it means to have faith or any of those things. And we just feel there's a lot of stuff in our doctrine, in the Bible, that is awesome, that is just good. It just makes life better. The way that God set up life is there's a certain way to live that is just it just makes your life better and more at ease and more peace. And we're trying to talk about those concepts in a way that people who don't even care about God or don't even believe in Him, that they could maybe apply it to their lives and have a rich, more full life. So today's social media, and let's just get started. First, let's try to talk about what role social media plays in your life. Like, what are the rules that you have set for yourself, how you consume it and how you interact with it? What do you do?
Sure, I'll go. I think, there's a little bit of a tension there because I enjoy social media. I don't think it's this evil thing. We have a friend at the church, Nolan, Pastor Nolan Lee, who is like anti-Facebook, and I always mess with him and make fun of him for that. It's not this evil thing. It's like anything, it's how we use it. It's a balance in how we use it, right? So my 80-something-year-old grandmother in Sacramento uses it, and she loves seeing pictures of my boys. And, my sisters are on it, my families are on it. It gets people together. It shouldn't replace true community and relationship, but I think there's a balance and there is a tension there in people's lives. I know for me, I could see some addiction there where, I'm checking stuff and, I also help manage social media for the church. And so, I'm looking at stats, I'm looking at ads, I'm looking at our posts and the effectiveness of engagement, all that stuff. So, maybe I'm not a true example of it, but it definitely plays a big role in what we do at the church, our nonprofit Project Reach, and then me personally, and just engaging with people, old friends and family and stuff like that. So I think it's important. I think it's good. I think balance is necessary, though.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think the reality is social media is not going anywhere. I remember when I first got into television and, we were still editing linearly, meaning like tape to tape, and the guys were using these big old machines, and we had photographers that had been in the business for 20 years, and we started the transition into nonlinear, into digital editing with Final Cut Pro and Avid, and there was this big pushback of like, oh, this is not going to be the same and whatever. And now 10 years later, nobody goes tape to tape. I mean, everything is digital, and you look at these photos and they're like, oh, this made my life so much easier.
Yeah.
I feel like the people that are so resistant to social media, it's like, look, dude, this is the future. Whether maybe it's not Facebook, maybe it's not Twitter, maybe it's not Snapchat, but this idea of people getting information in an alternative way, meaning they're not coming home and they're not watching me on TV every night. They're not always coming into church every Sunday, right? We have people that are watching services on Facebook Live. They have us that are streaming on Facebook. They have people who are getting their news. Twitter, for example, has become one of the biggest news sources. When there's breaking news, we all are on Twitter because it's the quickest way to get information. So I think the balance is, are you using it in a way that is uplifting not only yourself and your community, but having some positive impact and creating engagement, right? That's what social media is all about, creating this engagement, whether it's through likes or through comments. The hard part and sort of the sad part is when that engagement turns so negative and hateful, quite honestly, which we saw really during the election process. It was at such a heightened state that people were, I had friends that fully disengaged because they were getting so wrapped up and so
Families.
angry. Yes, torn apart.
Crazy.
About what people were saying. And I think the danger too is that sometimes, and I certainly see this being someone who's on television, that people feel like they can say whatever they want because they're hidden by the cloak of their computer screen. Like what you're saying and your words don't have value or meaning, and you can say whatever you want because I'm Gen 2.5 on Facebook. And it's like, wait a second, what your words have impact for people, and what you're saying is creating a ripple effect to the people around you. And I think there's this sort of like, oh well, who cares? I'm just going to say it and say what I think.
Yeah.
When in the reality, if you and I were sitting here, you would never say those things to someone at their face, and it's hurtful.
Right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
When we were planning out this topic, there is just so many different directions that we could take social media, because like you guys touched on it, there's like social media, like with Twitter, with news, like there are developing countries that are at civil war. There's like protests going on, and the only way we would ever know it's happening is because somebody posted a video on Twitter,
Right.
because the government has literally shut them out, like does not give them access to news, like the news doesn't even exist. So there's like really, really helpful like world topics that are being covered, but then there's also like, it's the kitsch, like, oh, here's what I had for breakfast, and then you get into like the bullying, like you were talking about the cloak of being behind your computer. Like bullying is being run rampant because of social media. I've got a good friend visiting. He teaches inner city Chicago. He said a school rule is they cannot have their phones and they cannot post at school, because all it does is it just like, it's this cycle of like people just like get after kids and like just beat them down and down and down. So I mean, on one hand, it's super necessary and helpful, not only to individuals but to businesses, to get their word out. But then it's also, there's like this really dark side where you can just take it like, and just be completely mean-spirited, things
It-
like that.
It really has changed the game in marketing for businesses, and it's been a positive thing for that. I mean, you can do very inexpensive ads for your business, your service or product you're selling, or for us, a church, and you can get great ROI for that type of social media marketing. However, it's so true recently, and a lot of viewers and listeners have seen this video. Simon Sinek did a video. It was geared towards millennials, but he touched on social media and the use of social media. And basically, in a nutshell, he was saying there is a loss of social skills in our millennials he was talking about. But in general now, even like I'm not a millennial, I barely miss that. But for all of us, there's a loss in those social skills of having to like sit across from someone and say, like, confront them and have that awkwardness and that tension in person, or like having to go on a date and like be all awkward and weird like I was when I was dating, like, hey.
I see people all the time at restaurants sitting on their phone.
On their phone.
Across from each other. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's like first date, and they're
Yes.
they're like texting each other.
Do you want to see me again? Yes, I do.
Maybe you kind of look cute. Why'd you do your hair like that? No, but it's true. Like, people are losing social skills, and so it's difficult. There's divisiveness. There's social skills versus like this virtual identity people are taking on, and it's crazy to me. It's a little scary. I have 3 young boys. It's a little scary. You have a young daughter and one on the way, so it's a little scary for the future. But it should shape the way we parent.
Yeah.
The sad part for me is when we look in from like a spiritual or Christian context, that a lot of the issues that are some of the most divisive, and I'll go back again to the elections. I feel like this was sort of at our height. Like, for example, the Supreme Court, when we're talking about abortion rights and women's rights and the right to protect life and all of these things, that we often lose sight, in my opinion, of what Jesus really is calling us to do, which is provide this safe space for people. And social media has often become not a safe space. And so if you are someone, especially if you're seeking and you feel lost, or you're trying to say like, man, I kind of like this person, and there's something different about them, and I want to get to know them, and then you go and you immediately like look on their social media page, because that's what everybody does, and you follow them, and then you start seeing sort of this hate rhetoric or these very strong opinions, which I'm not saying like this country is built on the First Amendment. It's what my business is founded on. I'm all for the right to free speech, but this idea that we get so wrapped up in creating tension or being divisive, or the words that we're using, that we lose sight of like what Jesus really intended for all of us in the first place, which was saying, wait a second, it's okay that you have a different opinion. Let's come together. And the bigger picture is loving those who have a different opinion of you. Like, Jesus wasn't hanging out with the Pharisees and the people that were the like religious scholars. In fact, he went against most of those people and said, no, let me come down, let me come to the children, let me come to the woman who has leprosy, let me come to the prostitute, let me engage and converse with the people that are sort of the social outcasts. And social media has kind of done the opposite of that, of saying only hang out with people that you believe in and you have the same opinion about, which is then isolating this whole group of people that's wondering, what is Christianity really? And they're looking on social media and they're thinking, well, I don't want any part of that. I don't want to be a part of someone who is filled with so much anger and hatred towards somebody.
I was having a conversation right before this about the fact that a lot of the church Christians, Jesus followers, have kind of gotten it wrong and messed it up. And a large part of that is on social media. So Christians, if you're listening, I'll just give you straight advice. Sometimes loving people means not saying anything. Sometimes you need to not speak to that topic because it's emotion fueled. There's anger in it. There's hurt in it. People post things out of hurt. They're hurt and they're angry. They're afraid of something. And so sometimes you need to be quiet, and that's loving them more than speaking your mind, even if you're right. Even if you're right about a topic.
It makes me think of, I'm sure we've all experienced or known someone who's experienced a church that you go to it and you have a completely different view than everybody there. And it's like when you go into like the biker bar and the record stops and they all look at you and like
Right.
get out. Like,
No, they never do that. I love those places.
yeah, you're the one
You
turning
fit right
around.
in.
Yeah. But it's like they have like there are certain churches and they have their set of beliefs, and if you don't fit in that, you are immediately excluded. And that's kind
Right.
of what we do in social media when somebody says, you know, I think a woman has a right to choose, and we as Christians say, no, God, no. And then when you attack them, you're doing the same exact thing as that church would be doing, like turning them away.
Yeah.
And so the church that we all attend, we have the opposite mentality. It's like, you are safe here. You can come. It doesn't matter what you believe. You could believe the earth is flat.
Yeah.
Okay, that might be pushing it, actually.
If you believe the earth is flat,
Yeah.
We need to have some
Yeah,
serious
yeah, no.
conversation.
there's a church down the street
Yeah.
that'll
Yeah.
accept you.
No, but in all seriousness, we do that.
Yeah.
Like, that is probably the main pillar of our church. Is like, you can come as you are, and we do that as a church. I think it is probably important to do that on social media too.
I
Individual.
totally agree. I think more churches are, Jeff, the way you described them, of feeling people have been so, what's the word? Like, so, have such a bad taste in their mouth about what has happened with a specific church, and they don't, they had a bad experience at some point, and then they don't want anything to do with it. I had a friend who is gay, and I remember I was inviting him to church, and the first thing he asked me was, do they accept people like me?
Mm-hmm.
And my heart just broke, because I thought, he's asking that because of a past experience. There was something that happened at another church or at another organization, and he felt like because of who he was,
There's hurt behind it.
that there was no acceptance. And I just said, oh my gosh, yes, like, that's the beauty of the church, of saying, like, we all, and look, none of us are perfect, though we'd like to think we are sometimes. That's like to try and, like, God doesn't see like, oh, well, Scott, you're a better Christian than Jen, and Jeff, you're like
Which is
really
true.
off the rails.
That's true, by the way.
But it's this idea of saying, like, what are we talking about? We are all sinners. We're all screwed up. We've all got baggage. We've all made stupid decisions. We've all done stupid things. And that's the beauty. Like, we're talking about coming up on Easter. That's Good Friday. Is Jesus died for all of that. To say,
Yeah.
like, gosh, get rid of it. Come as you are and
Yeah.
be accepted. And if more social media posts, if more people could focus on, like, I'm going to post something that is loving someone instead of hating on them, or instead of trying to be divisive, I feel like we could actually have a movement where people felt like they could not only express their opinion but feel safe in that.
There should be no outsiders of the Christian church. There should be no such thing. And that's just the reality. We were at a conference a few weeks ago, a pastor's conference, and the topic was uncommon fellowship. And it described, like, back in, this is going to get super Bible thumper-ish, but back in, like, Acts, where the beginning of the church, where after Jesus died and rose again and went through, the ascension and all that, where the disciples really struggled with, even after Jesus died and through that whole thing, the resurrection, even after that, they struggled with, like, bonding with Gentiles, with non-Jews. And, there's in a few weeks at church, we're going to be talking about some scripture in Acts where Peter, one of the disciples, struggled with going to this guy's home because he was a Gentile. And he's like, they're not one of us type of situation. And he goes into the guy's home, and he finds out, like, the whole village is in his home. And he basically, his opening remarks are, I shouldn't be associating myself with you. It's like, whoa, like,
Wow.
But here's the deal. It's like the beginning church were these small, what they called ecclesias. They were home churches. And it was people, young, old, people from different backgrounds, Jews and Gentiles. Though they shouldn't have mixed, but they came together with one commonality, and that was their faith. And so I just think we need to take that and make that our new movement in the Christian church and on the social media, personally and corporately.
How do you guys think we could do that? Like, what are the steps? Like you said, one way to love people is just to not say anything.
Absolutely.
How else? Like, how else can we take the mentality of being open and accepting people? We do it in church. How do we do it online?
Yeah. So I mean, that is the first step in my opinion, because I always see Christians sharing posts that are. I have friends who share stuff that they're Christian posts. It's about like some part of Scripture, but it's a negative bet on something. Why are you doing that in that medium? So think about what you're saying to people. If every single one of your posts is what someone should or should not do, like you're the moral police. Stop being the moral police for people. Look at behavior and who someone is as two separate things, because a behavior is a symptom. The heart is the source. So I always use the analogy of when my boys have a fever. You can treat the fever with, Motrin or whatever, but you're treating a symptom. The underlying virus is what's going on. And that's ultimately what you have to treat and what has to get better for the fever to get better. So I just say, change the perspective and stop being someone's moral police. Don't focus on the behavior and what they're saying. Focus on their heart and where they're at. Because underneath that hate-filled post or that political-driven, emotional, or whatever it is, there's hurt, there's anger, there's fear.
I would 100% agree. I think less is more. And the only other thing I would add would be asking more questions. I feel like we're always so quick to share our own opinion. And this is even, it doesn't even have to do anything with religion. It's just as in general.
Absolutely.
I remember, even when you go on a date with somebody, how annoying is it when, you get out of the date and they're like, dude, they didn't even ask me a single question. And I think we lose sight of that. Someone will make a comment and we're so quick to then, vomit out of our mouth about what our own opinion is. And to your point about being the moral police, and somehow we feel justified when we can pull scripture, in the Bible it says, look, listen.
These people don't think that's even valid. Don't even believe in Christian.
Right, and the reality is it has no basis. You don't just throw a random verse out just because it's in the Bible. That doesn't provide any context.
Yeah.
The Bible is meant to be looked at through the eyes of modern society and where is it in context. It's why it's important when Scott, you're preaching, or Tim's preaching, or Jesse, or whoever, and then you're let me give you some context when this talks about they talk about slaves. Okay, well, obviously we don't have slaves in modern society today, so let's try to understand the basis of the history. So I think when it comes to social media, the first thing I would say is I totally agree of just shut your mouth or shut your typing off. And if you feel like you want to comment in a way that sheds love on this person instead of criticizing them, or instead of battering them down with what you think is the right or wrong, or ask a question why do you think that? Or tell me more about that. Even if you're inside or seething and so mad and think, how in the heck could this person think that?
Yeah.
Of saying, probe a little bit more, because your point, Scott, of saying that whatever they're posting is obviously there's something deeper in there of with my friend who's asking, do they accept people like me? A question of going, why did you ask that? Mm-hmm. What, because then that creates this safe place to have the conversation for him to say, I had this horrible experience at this church, and, the pastor got up there and just railed on people who were gay.
Yeah.
And okay, so whatever, regardless of what Jesus teaches about homosexuality in the scriptures, he never says hate on gay people.
Right.
Never. And so we lose sight of what is the bigger message of Jesus, which is truly to love him and love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
And we totally lose sight of that. And I think if we can ask more questions and be more selective in what we're choosing to comment on, and be very selective with our words. In television, we're always live. I anchor 3 hours of news a day, and it's not taped. So whatever I say on TV it's out there.
Yeah.
But when you're live, it changes your mindset. Not to say that I would, I'm saying crazy things when I'm not live, but certainly you feel, all right.
Sometimes.
That's why I co-anchor that and go, well, let me tell you what she says in the commercial break.
Exactly.
But when you're live, you're more careful and diligent about the words that are coming out of your mouth, because you know that they have impact. I know that what I say in San Diego every day at 1, 4, and 5 has impact on the community, and so I am careful in choosing what I'm saying. If we have that same idea and that same mantra when we're on social media, we may be having posts that are lifting people up as opposed to tearing them down.
Yeah. And so if I can add, here's the thing. I tell our teams this. I get them in a room, like a new team, before we go overseas, and I ask them who considers themselves a leader. And some raise their hands, yes, because they're a manager, or they're a husband or a wife, or a parent, whatever. And some of them definitely do not consider themselves a leader. And then I challenge them by saying, you're actually all leaders. Why? Because you have influence. Mm-hmm. And so Christians, I'm speaking to you. You have amazing influence. Non-Christians too. I'm picking on you, church, a little bit, because here's the thing. Your influence is huge, and you are representing more than yourself. And so, as you just said, don't share a verse. I'm going to share a verse because, Jesus.
Please give us some context.
Yes,
I will. A little bit.
Walk out.
Pastor Scott.
She's out of here. Here's the thing. Jesus spoke to he spoke to a lot of things. When he spoke to his disciples and even to the masses, he did so in a way that met people where they were at. He gave cultural examples to whatever point he was making. So like we just wrapped up a series called Storyteller, and he gave parables, which are stories with an underlying and sometimes a hidden truth. But he did so in a way, he's talking about like sowing seed, and he gave all kinds of different examples that were related to their culture at the time. So he met people where they're at. So who are we where we're not meeting people where they're at? Mm-hmm. A lot of people do not believe, and they're skeptical of the church, and I don't blame them. So this verse in John 17 is really cool. If you're not a Bible reader, here's the context. Jesus is praying for people after his death, burial, and resurrection, people who never see Jesus. He is praying for us who believe and do not see, is basically the context there. And he makes this statement. I mean, there's a larger part to it, but I just want to pinpoint this statement. He says this, that they may all be one. That's us, those of us who are Jesus followers. Just as you, Father, are in me. He's speaking to God the Father, and I in you. And they also may be in us. And here's the key, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. So we are called to be one. Jesus is saying we need to be one and love each other so well that would cause people to wonder why, and would love others so well and not put people on the outside. Love people so well they wonder why are they loving me so well. Mm-hmm. So when we're in social media, church Christians, why are we getting in this divisive conversations and arguments with people when our goal should solely be not an emotional response, but to meet people where they're at and love them very well?
Yeah, and I think one way to love someone is to defend them. You can defend a person and not defend their stance.
Absolutely.
So if somebody has something you completely disagree with, what would it look like if you were the one person that got on there and said, you know what, I totally get what you're saying. And I think it's terrible what people are saying about you on this. If you defended them and loved them, I just feel like that would make a way bigger difference to that person than if you just jumped on the bandwagon and started attacking their thoughts.
Yeah.
100%.
Because the argument never ends on social media. There are posts, like it starts with a couple lines, and then there's a reply that's 3, then there's 6, and then you get to like the 30th, and it's like a novel.
Crazy.
It's just like people like this, and they're just like attacking back and forth and back and forth. What would it look like if we promoted oneness by saying, you know what, I don't care what you believe. I love you because God loved me first. And that, like you were saying, Scott, we'll set an example. It's like, man, if that person can disagree with that person and still love them, there's something going on there. Mm-hmm. And that will invite people to check out God more than us convincing someone that abortion is wrong, or that convincing, pick a sin that we like to attack.
Yeah.
Right. Well, sure. And it's just never, I think about like talking to a teenager right? Like when you're a parent and you're talking to a teenager and they do something that they screw up, which is bound to happen. You don't, like, the parents that are successful in parenting don't just continually attack them, because then what does the teenager do? They rebel even more, and they're like, screw you, you don't know what it's like, I don't want to do anything with you. Then they for sure cut off communication, so now there's no communication and they're not telling you anything. But the parents that are able to put their own opinion aside and love on that teenager for who they are and say, you know what, I get it.
Yeah.
To Jeff's point, I get it. Tell me more about why this happens.
Listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then you create this conversation of the teenager feeling safe to say, this is why I did this, or I did this because I was so sad, or this guy really hurt my feelings, or this girl really did this, or whatever. And all of a sudden now you have productive conversation. Mm-hmm. So then when you are the parent and you can say, you know what, let's talk about how we can make a better decision next time, the child is willing to listen.
Yeah.
When we're attacking people on social media, it's like you want to ask that person, do you know that they're not listening, right? Like nothing you're saying is resonating, because you're coming at them at a point of such being so divisive that people just tune you out. Like, look, dude, don't freaking attack me. I'm just nothing you say is gonna resonate with me because I'm already angry.
So true. They've had an entire lifetime to form this opinion. A couple sentences is not going to change it.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And here's another thing to your question, kind of going off of that. So listening is so key, but how do you love people well on social media is the question. Here's one thing for you Christians. Another thing is, and for me and for us, is be real and authentic and lead with your own brokenness. Mm-hmm. Lead with your own. So I read an article a while ago, and it was the article was for people in relation to their parents and kind of what they, people with daddy issues, quote unquote, or parent issues. And one thing that was an issue for all of these people they interviewed was that they never admitted they were wrong, the parent. So as you listen to people on social media, be real with and authentic with your own weaknesses, lead with your brokenness. We do that at the church a lot, because if you can kind of get over yourself and you can admit your own junk and lead with your brokenness, you're now relatable, and you will gain people's respect through meeting people where they're at with their heart and just being authentic with people. Like, man, I'm screwed up, and I just want to love you well.
Yeah. If there was a way that we could somehow digitally send someone a can of Pepsi.
Pepsi, are you listening? We have a potential multi-million-dollar commercial
or
idea.
A Starbucks iced coffee venti, preferably.
Yes, unsweetened, please.
Unsweetened.
Who was it? A Jenner? Well, who was the girl in the Pepsi ad? Have you guys been living?
Oh yeah, Kylie Jenner.
Kylie Jenner.
Yeah, I'm under a rock.
There's a big controversy now because it was like Black
I
Lives
like
Matter.
that. Yeah.
You liked it?
Mm-hmm.
And like, people are like, Pepsi doesn't solve the world's problems. Sorry.
Yeah.
It got
It was a
too much
commercial.
sugar in it. It's not gonna do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we can give someone a Pepsi.
Yeah.
Or
Pepsi. If
Or
you're
a
listening.
bottle of water.
We currently have no sponsors for God and Econ podcast.
or Starbucks. I am your person.
Yeah.
Yes.
I say hi to my Starbucks people every morning. They know my name. Hello.
Yeah.
Although we are sitting in a brewery, so possibly maybe like
Oh,
Bloody Marys in the
A
morning or
brewery?
something.
Brewery. Stone, Ballast Point. Are you
Yeah,
listening?
any-
Dallas
those.
Point bought for $1 billion. Hey,
Right?
They got some. They
Listen,
must have.
your marketing budget is pretty big.
San
Yeah.
Diego, the
Hint,
craft
hint.
brewing center of the world. What are
Exactly.
we talking about here?
Awesome.
I live in Alpine. Alpine Brewery's legit.
Yeah.
Plug.
I'm sorry. I put us on this rabbit trail.
I
I'm
know.
gonna bring us back.
Let's bring it back.
I feel like we've made some really good points to think about, at least. You may not agree with us. You may think that social media is a place where that is meant for your opinion, which it absolutely is. I think what we're saying is everybody has the right to voice their opinion, but just look at what good it might be doing by saying it on social media.
Absolutely.
There's this app, I'll circle back as we wrap up here about when we talked about 60 Minutes at the top. There was this app developer who developed, it's like a 10-second breather app where you it will count down and give you 10 seconds before it logs you into this specific like
Ooh,
Facebook
I
or
like it.
Instagram, right? To like,
Yeah.
are you sure? Like, really, is there anything else you could be doing
Calm
with
you
your time?
down.
Right.
Yeah.
So the App Store rejected it for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, Jeff,
So
of
good.
like, we're not saying don't post your opinion. That's the beauty of the social media community. It's what we're talking about with getting engagement and having conversation. All of that is important. Just maybe taking those a couple extra seconds to think about what is the impact that my words are going to have, and would I be willing to say what I'm going to say to this person if they were sitting next to
face.
me in person?
And in place of that app, Jen Carlman's phone number, she will do this for you, is 619-555-5555.
Cool.
Just
You can stream us though on the Fox 5 app.
Yes. So what I would challenge us all to do is maybe this week, maybe today, if you're listening to this, you obviously have some sort of device. I bet you have a Facebook profile.
I bet.
Seek out those people that typically just drive you insane. You've probably already unfollowed them. Refollow them, and I just challenge you guys to think of oneness, like we were talking about. Reach out, go across the aisle, proverbially, and just defend somebody. Just find somebody you disagree with and just try to take a step in the right direction.
Or build them up, like encourage them.
Yeah.
You know, reach out to 3 people on social media today. Do the opposite of what you usually do or what we usually do, and reach out to 3 people and just say, I see the pics of your kids. You seem like such a good mom. You seem like such a good and a hardworking dad and hardworking mom. You know, like reach out a little bit and lift someone up.
Yeah. Make sure you know them, though.
Yeah, because otherwise that could be creepy.
Yeah. I love your kids. I've been watching them on social media for years. But
Let me tell you, we got a
Took
few
that a
of those
little
too.
far. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I feel like we could have 2-3 more shows on this topic.
Yeah.
We just kind of scratched the surface. But yeah, definitely promote oneness. Think about your actions.
Be a leader when it comes to your mobile devices and your social media use at home. I'm not very good at this, admittedly, but have like a no phone zone time with your family. Sit down and put your phones and devices somewhere, limit it, and just have balance and love for people when you're on it.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Jen, before we
No,
wrap
I think
up?
you guys covered it. I loved it. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for being with us. And again, thank you to Iron Fist Brewing. They let us use the space. Chris Cantori of the
Chris
View.
is awesome.
He's the best. He's
So
just like,
great.
This place is great. If you're in Barrio Logan or downtown area, come check it out. Iron Fist Brewery. It's amazing.
Yeah,
And,
Such a cool space in here.
check out the U Network, YEW. They got a lot of good videos, podcasts, articles.
Good content. Go check
Check
out
Fox
Jen.
5 San Diego.
Yeah.
Fox5.
You can stream our.
How many
Yes,
hours
yes.
a day do you guys?
I'm on 3 hours.
3 hours.
Seems like 15.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Listen, we all
I
need
mean,
more
for
Jen
us.
Carlman.
If your life is seeming hectic and it's just like going a million miles an hour, watch the 4 p.m. Your life is gonna slow way
Yeah,
down.
listen.
It'll
our poor-
tank, so to speak.
It'll just drag on.
Just
and
kidding.
on.
Oh, you guys are the worst.
Yeah.
Jen is awesome. Check her out on
Yeah,
Fox 5.
It's fun. It's a fun show. All right, cool. Yeah, thanks for listening. As always, subscribe, tell your friends.
Share. Thank you, Jen.
Hey, you're welcome.
Good
Glad
to
to
see
be
ya.
here. You guys too.
Cool. We'll see you next week.